Anu Nation is home to the Anu spiritual order founded by Chief Jegna Haru Yuya Asan Anu. Some of the components of Anu Nation are Anu Life Global Ministries, Enlightenment and Transformation, Sadulu House, and Osiris Life Spiritual Services. SaduluHouse.com is the school component of Anu Nation, where spiritual empowerment through education and training is emphasized. One way that is accomplished is through our monthly webinars. Our webinars are packed with foundational information, rituals, and live instruction to empower your spiritual work. At SaduluHouse.com, you can view our diverse list of topics for this year that range from meditation to sex magic. And you can also register for any of the webinars at your convenience, sign up for our introductory Orisha class, schedule a spiritual reading, and sign up for the Anu Spiritual Training course. Enlightenment and Transformation is the media component of Anu Nation. Here, you can view all of our archived shows from over the years to our current segments. They include Chief Speaks, Masterminds Monday, Anu Asafo, Thunderground Thursdays, and Foundational Fridays. You can also visit us on our YouTube channels. They are Enlightenment and Transformation, Orisha Yoruba, and Anu Nation. Osiris Life Spiritual Services is for those who are ready to take the necessary actions to bring your life into holistic balance. Here we offer consistent monthly one-on-one coaching, solutions that are tailored just for you, practical hands-on self-development techniques that will accompany your monthly readings, and customized practical strategies designed for you that guarantee positive results. Simply choose the package that best fits your needs. And last but not least, AlphaOmegaStore.com. The Alpha Omega Store is our online botanica where we offer divination tools, herbs and incense, DVDs, books, and other hard-to-find ritual items. You can also get our best-selling foundational book, Grasping the Root of Divine Power. Other great works from Anu Nation are Shrine and Altar, Solutions for Dysfunctional Family Relationships, and Natural Hair for Young Women. All great books to assist you on your journey. To find out more on how to get involved with Anu Nation, visit our websites and YouTube channels and be sure to sign up for our monthly newsletter.
Ibashe Oludumare, Ibashe Ogumila, Ibashe Awo Akoda, Ibashe Asheda, Ibashe Edubona Mefa, Ibashe Agbongbong, Oba Ileife, Ibashe Adabalotu Ife, Ibashe Olokun, Ibashe Olasa, Ibashe Aje Ogun Ulosho Olamba Eye Aye, Ibashe Ita Merendinogun, Ibashe Orunoko, Ibashe Okunoko, Ibashe Okiti Awoko, Ibashe Oguni Male Leju, Ibashe Baba, Ibashe Yeye, Ibashe Ori, Ibashe Tototo, Olodumare Emojuba. Kiba me eshi orunjuba. Ashe, 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 Ashe.
But the true essence of magical or occult phenomenon is the creation of an ego, the creation of an identity, but an identity that will hold and maintain through lifetimes. The all in all is the spiritual and unseen subcontext that lies beneath all of reality. That is the all. And that within itself is mental. The greatest thing you can do in this moment is to be aware that these events are happening and to start digging into your creative mind as to where you can begin to assist. So these are not theories and thoughts and ideas that have been developed within me overnight, nor are they theories, thoughts, and ideas that have been developed inside of a vacuum, but they've been tried and proven brought out to the desert of the mind. Because your mind can only perceive what is real, but you have yet to actually fully. So if the universe is mental, then can the universe learn something? Certainly.
See? Man, it's starting already. For those of you who tuned in last night, we had a real rough technical ride on Blog Talk Radio. There was a lot of dropouts. People's phones were getting dropped. The sound was coming in and out. It was just a bad trip, as some would say. It was a bad trip. Let me bring in Tareen. Let me see. I might be breaking up again. Greetings, Brother Tareen. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, brother. I can hear you. How you doing? You got a ram in the bush, man. I know Brother Onwar dropped out, man, so I just seen it.
Okay. Cool. So we got some backup.
But you sound, yeah. You sound straight, though, man. I can hear you well.
Okay, good. Beautiful. Yeah, I actually have, literally, I have 3 phones in front of me. So, and 2 of them are currently called in. So, whichever one gets kicked off, I'll just pick that one up.
To do like a conference call, that won't work, though, would it?
Which one? The one I just used?
People to call in to like a conference call thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
that
you know what? We actually do have a conference call line that, like, you've been on it. We use it for the men's call. The only problem with that is that you can't see who's calling.
Oh, okay.
So,
okay.
Yeah, that's the one thing that the Blog Talk thing has the back-end switchboard where I can look and see an area code or, it's like little functions you can do. With the conference line, that's the only thing. That's the only reason I use Blog Talk, just because of that back-end switchboard.
Right, okay.
Because I thought about using the conference line. I was going to switch to that at one point. I said, but then I can't really see people in the back end. I can't mute and unmute them as needed, So it might get a little messy. Yeah, depending on, who calls in. Yeah, so that was the only challenge with that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm here for you, Chief. Told you.
Okay, beautiful.
100,000 strong, brother.
For sure. Give thanks. I'm going to bring Brother Anwar back in. He put his hand back up. Got a couple hands.
Greetings, Chief. I'm glad that you're in space with us again today. So, while I'm hearing y'all talk, you know what I'm thinking? We need to put together a facility just for media, for broadcast, for video, just a central point where it's just equipment. Literally, it's just equipment. We got a lot of people that can learn the equipment and go through that, man. I'm telling you. That's what I'm thinking right now. But that just came to head when y'all were talking. I'm like, man, a little facility with the call-in number being ours and the transfer. When people call in, those are our numbers that they getting transformed in. Yeah, I'm feeling that though. But that's where I'm at. I'm cutting the lawn and I'm kind of hyped, so I'm gonna slow down and just put myself on mute.
Yeah, well, good idea, man. Let's keep that going. That we actually kind of have that in motion to a degree, not to the same degree, but that was part of the one of the moves. We were setting up a headquarters, and I wanted to set up a media and video studio. However, setting up where we actually have a private call-in line, things like that, I did not include that in the plan, so that would be great, and that's along my lines anyway, because like I said, I don't like to be held ransom to anybody's system, especially this system isn't active.
Right.
So yeah, man, I would definitely, fund that.
Let's think about it. Let's ponder on it and visualize it. That's all we need to do. But thank you, brother, for being in this.
I'm alive.
Yeah, I am. I'm already there.
Okay, yeah.
But it's cool, man. Let's rock with it, man. You guys have a great show.
All right, thank you.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Chief. What else
no, it's okay, brother. I know you're moving. Thank you.
Yeah, we keep it moving. We keep that, what stays in the men's call stays in the men's call.
Exactly.
All right, brother. Hey, man, I said, I'm hyped, man. I just want to say hello, man. Thanks. I've been vibing off the information. Even though we've been going through technical difficulties, man, that the information that's been given is just, thank you. Give thanks, Chief. Give thanks to Anu. And I'm going to mute myself out and finish cutting this line. Y'all be safe.
All right. I said, you too, brother. You too. All right, cool, yeah. So we got a Brother Tareen, suggestion on the conference line. And Brother Anwar shares that we probably need to have our own studio for it. And both of you are right in alignment. You know, we need to just keep developing the ideas because the media and video studio, like I said, is something I've been working on. In fact, I can share a little bit of it now. I was looking for some storefronts and some more specifically some warehouses in the North Carolina area. I was also looking in Brooklyn, New York as well, for like warehouses with possible retail space, attached where we could have like, you know, little bookstore or something. But, you know, I'm not really stressing the bookstore thing because people don't really read anymore. But was really looking to have a space to establish a shrine as well as to warehouse some of the things that we have, and to establish a studio, a recording audio video studio within that. And that's been some of the work. That's one of the reasons why the retreats have been geared towards North Carolina. And why this one? Because that's where I've actually been doing the land searches and as well as storefront and retail space searches. And I've been looking for warehouses. So, like I said, Brother Armo was right on time with that. But in fact, some of that can be done now, you know, because most of this stuff is virtual anyway. It's mainly just establishing the software. So that's something that I'm going to look into because, like I said so many times, this is corny, you know, and we have had people who have given donations for enlightenment and transformation because, you know, we pay monthly fees and then there's like equipment and stuff that we use. But in my thing, I don't care if I got $1 donation. If I only ever got $1 or $2 offering, it's supposed to work right. From that point forward, the moment some people say, well, listen, this is something I really value and I'm getting a lot out of it, I want to invest in it, I want to give an offering for, from that moment forward, it's got to be right. And so I have not been necessarily happy about the performance of some of this Blog Talk nonsense with the cutting off, and some people will tell me later, like, I was trying to call, I couldn't get through. And, you know, there's a limit to the amount of people who can call in on the line, but even when I know we're not near that limit, people have had issues getting through, so that's not good. I don't like that. So, yeah, you know, thank you, brothers, for giving us suggestions. I saw 508. I saw you picked up your hand as well. You put it back down. I'm guessing you were going to tell me something about the audio as well. So thank you for the heads up. But anyway, you know, I don't want to go in forever on the Blog Talk audio. But of course, if I'm breaking up, because even on this line, I listened back to the audio last night. It was breaking up on this line too. So the one you heard when I first called in, that's me just dialing directly into Blog Talk. They have a function for that. And this one that you're hearing me on now, I'm just on a regular cell phone. And this was also cutting off. So it wasn't just, it's just cutting everything off. You know, and I feel that the information is too to allow that level of tomfoolery. All right, so, we're going to do something about that. But anyway, so last night we were building with the vibration or the idea of the 222, which, of course, because yesterday was February 22nd, 2017. Of course, I say the whole date because a lot of people listen to archives. And we had a lot of people on the back end yesterday. And you know what? I wanted to say this, too. I didn't say it before I got off. I wanted to just commend everyone who hung in there because we had a lot of people on the back end. And Brother Randy called in and let me know that, Chief, we haven't been hearing you. It's probably like a good minute. There was no sound. And no one hung up, you know, so either you were off doing something else or you were just waiting. So I just wanted to thank you for your patience. I thought that was commendable that a lot of you waited. And then after that, like 10 people dropped off the line. I saw the number just drop, like all of a sudden. And so Blog Talk caught off a bunch of people at once, and then they started dialing back in and get back in. So, again, I just commend you for hanging in there. But, we were talking about the 222 and just what the energy of duality means and how that master builder number is expressed. And willfully, from that discussion moving forward, you all have a better understanding of master builder numbers in general now, and what they mean in a larger sense, willfully. because with that actual idea, of that master builder and what that represents, there's so much to kind of dig into there with
just really getting some clear understanding on what people are talking about a lot of times when they're giving you these talks and these lessons on numerology. And sometimes people start in the middle and we don't really know, they're using terminology that we may not be as familiar with. And so I will that after last night's discussion on even how to look at how numbers are factored and how they're considered, and when you have multiple numbers, how one number influences another. I hope that information is a bit more clear to you all. And when I went back and listened, there was a big chunk, like almost like the punchline of what I was saying that was actually taken out. And I'm not going to go over it because that's that. There was, that's that. The moment has passed. So I'm sure, because a lot of what we speak about is cyclical because so many things are connected and related to other things. So I'm sure in some shape, form, or fashion, I will actually end up covering that information again. Somehow it's going to come up. So that's another reason why I'm not really sweating it. That's why it's important to stay tuned. It's important to stay tuned because, sometimes you'll end up missing things that are critical, to another thing. And it kind of, it fleshes out the whole answer, what was being talked about here, what was being talked about there, when you listen to things in their entirety, and which sometimes requires you to dedicate yourself. Sometimes you're going to have to say, you know what? I'm just going to have to soak this up for a while. Like, I'm just going to have to live this for a moment. I may not be able to jump in and out the way I was thinking that I would and still get the same information that I wanted. So, based on that, it'll come back up again. The information will come back in. I'm going to give you all the call-in number for those who want to call in before I get into some of this today's subject a little bit more. Calling number is 515-605-9862. 515-605-9862. And you're listening to Community. Let me say that because, there are some people who listen to Community who don't really know who I am or that I even exist. So some of you, most of you, I'm sure, came from Chief Speaks or something, or Foundational Friday or Yusuf L or something. So for those who may call in or listen and think they tuned into the wrong show, it is Community. But I'm Chief Yuya. I'm filling in. All right. And I am the head instructor of the Sadulu House, Jegna of the Anu Nation. All right. For those who do not know. And a Jegna is a community leader. That's what a Jegna is. Jegna is. A Jegna is a community leader. And I tend to use that title a bit more because of the implications of the word or the idea even of a mentor. And I've broken that down in previous shows in terms of the energy of mentorus, or the mentor, and what that is and what that represents. I don't always want to go over everything from scratch, but definitely it's in the earlier shows for you to understand why we use the Amharic term Jegna, as a healthier replacement to the term mentor. All right. So today, what we're going to be getting into is the idea of flexibility and transitioning. Okay. And we're going to tap a little bit into the idea of Tantra, but just a little bit, not too heavy. But primarily what I want to look at is flexibility. And like I said, that all the shows are really linked to one another now. In yesterday's segment, we found out with the 222 that we're dealing with harmony and duality. And through our partnerships, we're able to manifest the full path of what it is that we came to manifest. Okay, we found that out through that actual descript, going through that. And in this segment, now we're going to get into where some of that, how to really harmonize, and where some of that dualism comes into play, and how we can keep it in play. Because that's the key, how we can keep it in play. I said something recently in the show that, it doesn't take 10 years to find a mate. And it really doesn't take 30 days to find a mate. Sometimes we have a lot of trouble, especially the older we get, because we create a linkage between aging and inflexibility, and we feel that they go hand in hand, and though some things may have a natural inclination towards certain directions, it doesn't mean we have to go down that direction. Even as flesh beings, and we spoke about that yesterday when we connected the idea of the cross to the idea of the finishing, or the 22nd Hebraic letter. And that 22nd Hebraic letter, which was originally identified or marked as a cross, we came to understand, okay, well, that means it's a seal. Something has now ended. So now based on that ending or based on that marking, we now say, okay, well, when we put it along the tree of life, we say, okay, it lines up in everything perfectly. So there is a dualism in that aligning. When you're looking at the tree of life, there's a left pillar, there's a right pillar. So you're dealing with the feminine pillar, the masculine pillar, coming down into the middle, which creates a balance. But even in terms of the creation of the lettering, you're having to use horizontal lines as well as vertical lines, which is again a synthesis of the masculine and the feminine to channel energies. Because remember, each letter channels a specific a specific spiritual energy. That's what each letter does. It channels a specific spiritual energy. So when you're able to write the letter, let's say you write a letter A, or you write a letter N, or a letter T, right? You're using a combination of horizontal and vertical lines. And through that combination of horizontal and vertical lines, you're actually employing masculine and feminine energies. You see? So that is a form of channeling. And through that channeling or that engagement of the masculine and feminine, you give birth to different forms of cognition, different channels of spirit energy. You see, so you start to see, okay, it's a dualism, the dualistic nature that gives birth to that. So that was one of the things that we were speaking about yesterday. But of course, it relates to what we're speaking about today. It comes right in alignment, because we're again dealing with the idea of harmonizing. And there was, oh wow, look at that, they're back. I just looked out my window. Okay, there was something I was getting ready to speak on, and I was going to say something that happened this dawning, but it's happening right now as I'm speaking. So this dawning I came out to my backyard to do my work, and there were 12 turkeys. No, not were, there are right now as I'm speaking. There are 12 turkeys in my backyard. And I'm going to share the significance of that, because I don't have turkeys where I live like that. So you might be thinking, oh, maybe he lives in the woods. I don't live in the woods. Okay, I've never seen turkeys in my neighborhood or my yard. And what's so interesting, my youth the other day was walking home, and he had this big, like, Papa's emergency. I was like, what happened? I thought he got into a fight, because they fight, so I'm like, what happened? Like, what girl you fighting over this time? And he was like, no, it's nothing like that. He was like, I saw 2 vultures on the way home. Is somebody gonna die? Because he's like obsessed with symbols. And I was like, nah, I may not mean that. Vultures are here to purify. So it could be a cleansing that's going on right now. And so he took a picture of them. I was actually going to use it as a picture for one of the shows, because it was a nice, clear, he got a nice shot of these 2 vultures sitting on this tree branch, right? At least I thought they were vultures. They look like vultures. I got to go back and look at the picture. So that was maybe like, maybe 10 days ago, 7-10 days. I actually really forgot about it, kind of. Wasn't even thinking about it. This dawning, I go outside, and I see all these turkeys. I'm like, what the heck? Because again, we don't have, even the vultures, I'm saying, okay, they must have been passing through, because where I live, and when I say where I live, it's very interesting. Specifically, my yard, is a pathway for tropical birds. I guess when they're going from north to south. And they really only, and I guess if we made an angle, if we cut up different blocks. It probably is other people's houses too, but primarily my house, right? Not no one else's yard, just my yard. In fact, I'm gonna tell you something that happened a couple of years ago. It was kind of funny. This guy, one day I'm sitting in my dining room, and I don't know what I was doing, but I saw a guy walk up my driveway. So, I threw my boots on, hopped out, grabbed a butcher knife out of the kitchen. I'm like, what are you doing? And he was like, no, Poppy. He was Spanish guy. He said, no, Poppy. My bird, my daughter's bird. And what happened, his daughter's bird, they were doing something in their yard, and his daughter's bird flew away. And I'm like, well, it was out the cage, so. But I don't know much about pet birds, so he's following the bird, whistling, calling it, got food in his hand, and I mean, he went on because he was sweating, everything. He followed it all the way to my yard, and he said, it's in your tree. So he was like, can I go get it? I was like, yeah, Pop, no problem. And I had this real tall ladder. I said, I'll help you. I'll get the ladder. Now, I'm thinking he's not going to get this bird. I'm thinking that once he gets close to the bird, it's a bird. It's going to fly away. Like, why would it come back to the cage? Right? So, but I'm helping him. And then his daughter and his wife, they pull up in a minivan. He's on the phone with them. I guess he gave him the address. So the daughter's there and everybody's like, come down. I'm trying to remember this bird's name. I can't remember, but they were all whistling and had food. And then my next door neighbor, who's Mexican, he came over, and him and his son helped hold the ladder, and he's laughing at him. He's like, you look like monkey. You look like a monkey. Because he's like trying to climb in the tree to get the bird. So it's just like a whole big scene. And I'm just sitting here. Everybody's in my yard. I'm just watching this. And lo and behold, he actually got the bird. Lo and behold, the bird actually came down to him. So it was around that time that I realized that there's something kind of interesting with my yard, obviously. And you know what it is. It's all the spiritual work I do here. And plus I have Iyami shrines in the yard. So I always have tropical birds in my yard. Now let's go back to these turkeys, because I'm looking at them right now. So this dawning I come out, I thought there was only like 5 turkeys. And I'm looking, and then I look behind my garage, there's more. Lo and behold, it's 7. Right now I'm looking at them. There. I left some millet out. I don't think they eat millet though. But I left some food out for them because I actually wanted them to come back. They had flew off, or and they're not eating any of the millet though. I left it all around my SU. So, but anyway, I'll experiment with some different foods. But so just as I'm doing the show, this dawning, I was like, yeah, I should probably bring this up and talk about the turkey piece, even though that's not what I planned on talking about today, because they made an appearance, and such a strong appearance. And again, I've never seen turkey. I've lived where I currently live now for decades. Never seen any turkey, anything like. We don't have stuff like that. Maybe a raccoon or a possum or something, you know what I mean? But or a cat, but not a turkey. So they're making a special appearance, right? So based on that, I'm gonna give them some honor. I gave them some food; they wasn't really messing with it, but I'm gonna give them some honor, and I'm gonna share turkey, what the turkey represents. All right. So we're getting into the animal totem area now. We got the animal totem class that'll be popping soon. It's coming out, so I guess maybe it's in alignment with that. So I'm gonna share with you all, if you ever have an experience with a turkey. I don't know where you all live. Some of you live down south, so turkeys is like, you probably have turkeys as pets, but for those of us up here, we don't really see close. I've seen a turkey before, when I intentionally went to go find a turkey, and there's some woods not too far from where I live, but again, they have to go through like a city to get to me. But there's some woods where there's wild turkeys. Maybe they came from up there. I don't know how they got to the city. They must have came through like truck drivers in the middle of the night. But I've gone out there before and actually seen some, I remember the first time I was out there, I knew they were up there, and I was walking with somebody. We were going to do rituals, and I'm strapping knives to my leg. I got another one in my back. They're like, yo, where you going? Like, I'm getting Rambo ready. I'm like, yo, there's wild turkeys out here. They attack, and they can run up to 25 miles an hour. Turkeys are fast. So I'm like, yo, I'm not going to be able to outrun it, but I will cut it. You know what I mean? I will kill it and cut it and skin it.
So I have my knives and everything, brass knuckles. I'm like, I'm ready for these turkeys. But anyway, so let's get into what the turkey medicine means. I don't see them. I think they must have just went. I have a big lot. My yard is like a big lot, so I think they went even further back. But I hope they make my yard a new hangout. Let me see. But while I'm breaking it down, let me see what I look for. Okay, so I'm gonna share. Oh yeah, there you are in the back. Probably digging up ebos. But so I'm gonna share what the energy of the turkey represents. All right, just in honor of what happened this dawning and what's happening right now, and it came back. Turkey, represents service. Okay, so that's primary thing. It represents giving and service. And you got to be careful sometimes with some of these animal totems too, because like so many other things, a lot of it is just like guesswork for some people. And turkey was always one that I was suspicious of when I used to read about it, because I'd be like, man, this is some Thanksgiving stuff, because they always be like, oh, it's giving, it represents abundance. Who wrote this? So I'm going to give you probably a deeper understanding than what you may find readily available. But the best thing you want to do when you want to learn about a particular animal archetype, literally learn about the animal. Start there. Don't start with the mystic aspect of it. Just start with the actual anatomy of the animal. Start with the actual habits of the animal. That's where the information is, because the person who determined them as certain totems or whatever looked at their actual nature. And when those animals were formed and manifested on the planet, it was a nature that was formed and manifested. That's where you want to start. Okay, so I'm going to tell you the first thing I got when I looked at them, because one of them flew up. I have a grapevine in my yard, so one of them was on top of the grapevine, right? And it's a grapevine I constructed, so it's high, it's strong. It's probably about maybe 6 feet tall. Yeah, I'd say about 6 feet. So it flew up on top of the grapevine, but the rest of them were there on the on the surface, just pecking around, because it's getting warmer now, so the worms and stuff are coming to the surface. Because I also had a lot of blackbirds today as well, right? So essentially what happened was, I'm looking at this one and I said, yeah, that's part of what the symbol of the turkey represents. The turkey represents service, but it also represents your ability to step back and see the bigger picture. Because one thing that you know about the turkeys is that they can't fly for long distances. That's not what they do. What they do is they can fly high enough to go to like a rooftop or a tree branch or a rock or something like that, but they don't really fly very far. They fly just far enough just to step back, but they'll still be looking at what's going on. You see what I'm saying? So they're close enough to see what's actually happening, but they pull back from being in the midst of everything, which allows you sometimes to, I'm associating it with, humanizing it. It allows us sometimes to not make decisions based on being in the midst of battle, which we do so often. Sometimes we're in the grips and throes of something, and every decision that we're making is based on survival tactics. It's not actually based on what really needs to be done. So when turkey represents that service or that giving, turkeys stay close to the ground, close to the earth. They're huge birds. The males make themselves look bigger. Like the male I can see now, he's all flared out. And they do that primarily for mating purposes. That's how you can always tell the male from the female, because they look very similar. But the males will sometimes have those blue faces, and their feathers are kind of iridescent, like a greenish blue, but they flare out. Like most of the time when you see the turkey represented, like for the Thanksgiving pictures and stuff like that, it's flared out. But that's not how they look normally. That's how they look when they're putting on a show. And then they have a walk. They walk different, like kind of like a rooster. They strut, and then they flare out. So they're close to the earth, though. So turkeys represent that feminine vibration. Okay, they represent that earth energy. So that deals with giving, that deals with abundance, that deals with bringing things forward, and that also deals with service as well. But turkeys also move in large groups. So just like I said, there's 12 of them back there. There's 11. It was either 11 females and the 12th was a male, or there was 12 females and the 13. I'd have to count again, and I think it was 12. I think it was 11 females and 11 females and the 12th was a male. And then later I saw a second male, which was kind of interesting. But anyway, but there was 12 back there. So now we can look at the number 12, but I don't have to do a number breakdown for you now because I showed you how to do that yesterday. And I even gave you some information on the 1, and I gave you some information on the 2. So you can figure that out for yourself. Okay. So now, the turkey, again, it represents that abundance. It represents that giving, but more importantly and more specifically, like I said, they move in groups. They move in large groups. So, it represents that group awareness and that group service. Servicing the group, servicing large groups, and of course we look at it with its connection to the earth. It's like servicing humanity. However, because it's able to fly short distances, it doesn't move far from the herd, but it knows when to pull back enough from the herd to not only look at the danger and the things that may be going on, but also it can move far back enough from the herd to see what's actually going on with the herd itself. Are we moving in the right direction? Are we doing what we're supposed to do? Or should we design a different way to do whatever it is we're doing? One of the things, too, to know about turkeys is that their depth of, the depth field perception is not very, very good with turkeys. So a lot of times when you notice them, when they're walking, they kind of move their head. They bob their head from side to side. Now, they're not doing that because they waddle when they walk. They're doing that so that they can see how far objects are in front of them. Okay, and also helps them see how big objects are. So it's kind of like if you covered one of your eyes and tried to walk around, it's difficult to see how far, your depth of field perception changes, how far or how close things are, or what actual size they are. Okay, now that's that value again of the turkey, because it causes you to look more closely and examine your situations, because things could be more of a threat than you realize, or they might be less of a threat than you realize. You see, so when you're perceiving it and looking it through that particular lens again of that turkey lens, they still not messing. I put some garbanzo beans out there. They didn't want none of that either. I guess that makes sense. Why would they want them? I only put them out there because I'm not eating them. I've had some garbanzo beans in my cabinet probably for about 7 years now. So maybe the turkeys want them. Nobody wants them. But anyway, so I should use them for my because I teach the young girls in the family. I've always trained them on slingshots. We make slingshots. I teach them how to make their own slingshots and how to shoot them. That's a way that you could teach your children, early on when they're young, teach them self-defense. Train them on slingshots, because you got to learn how to aim and everything the same way. I could use the garbanzo beans for the slingshot. But anyway, so that turkey medicine, that turkey vibration, that's what it represents. It represents that giving and it represents that sharing, but it's also that aspect of being able to pull back from your work sometimes and make a determination as to if you're sharing in the proper way, or maybe you're sharing too much. Maybe you're overextending yourself and you're not paying attention to it, which is that's a common thing that many of us do. Those of us who are kind of locked into, I guess I could say, the service personalities, those of us who are known for serving and for helping and things like that. Sometimes we lose sight of how we should really help, or if our help is really being utilized and not so much appreciated. Because one of the things about the turkeys, because it's such a large animal, it represents that giving, that unconditional giving, that giving without agenda, giving without really expecting a reciprocal exchange, without expecting something in return. Okay, so that's part of the value of that turkey. It represents that in terms of that giving at that level. Okay, so there's more to it, but I think I shared the aspect that the turkeys wanted me to share, to be honest with you. I kept getting that whole learning to pull away, learning to jump away from the herd for a moment, not going too far where you give up. See, that's the key. Not going so far that you give up, but just far enough so that you can kind of see what's happening, where you can look at things a little bit more objectively. Sometimes that's necessary, and that's a lesson that we all need often, especially those of us who are learning and dealing with consciousness, because a lot of times we get trapped into these, I'm learning something now, so I want all of my family and friends to learn this as well. And sometimes we don't understand it. They're not the group that you should be trying to serve, because again, remember the turkeys move in groups. Sometimes we don't realize that no, you're aiming at the wrong one, or you're aiming at the wrong collective. All right, so I felt I needed to share that. When those things come to you like that, especially a sign that big and that strong, and you should always know something too. Whether you receive a sign that's good or whether you receive a sign that's bad, okay? And again, I'm using those words. I know I always have to kind of qualify them, but I'm using those words in a real simplistic fashion, because you all know I don't really deal with the good and bad paradigm. It's not really my style. But whether you're dealing with something that's unpleasant or whether you're dealing with something that's pleasant, in terms of the message that's being sent to you, in terms of what's being taught to you, I'm going to tell you something. Anytime the spirit brings a message to you, it means that there's a problem. Every time. Okay? That means that there's a problem. Now, it doesn't mean that the problem is, like, let's say if you get a good sign, you get, like, honestly, actually, usually seeing turkeys is a good omen, because it means that now you're about to come into some abundance. Something great is about to happen for you. Now, there are sometimes when, let's say you may have a vision where you're killing a certain animal. A lot of times, you usually want to take that, whatever that animal represents. A lot of times it means that you're about to get whatever that power is that energy represents, but you're about to get it by the wrong means. Okay, you're about to get it by the wrong means. Okay, so often that's what that means. Like if you had a dream where you're killing a turkey, it means that you're about to come into some wealth or some abundance, but you're not going to come into that wealth or abundance righteously. You see, so it's different meanings based on how they come to you. But most of the time when that energy comes to you, it's a good sign. Also I would also state, for those who are in the process of family building, turkeys are polygynous. Okay, that's why you may see one male with 12 female turkeys, and they're all puffed up and strutting and got all their wings out, because they're hitting all of that. So they're also polygynous in that sense, but there's like I said, the speed is key with them and a whole lot of things. So yeah, turkey medicine, pay attention to that. It's real significant. Now I want to get into a little bit of what we're talking about today in terms of the flexibility, and I guess even going off into teachings as it pertains to the turkey is a symbol of that. It's a sign of that. Being able to be flexible, being able to say, okay, well, we're going to speak about this today, but this animal medicine, because it's medicine that comes to you. This medicine came to me, so let me speak on this medicine. That's the direction we need to go in, because like I said, anytime you get a spiritual sign, 9 times out of 10. And I'm real serious about that number, 9 times out of 10. Okay, I'm not saying every time, but the majority of the time, it's because something's wrong. So even if it's a good sign, like, oh, you about to come into some money, you see all these turkeys, or you about to meet another mate, that could be the thing as well, because all these turkeys are here. So, your family's getting ready to expand or whatever. The problem is, you are moving in a direction or you don't see it. So we have to reveal this sign to you so that you see it, so that you wake up to it. So something's wrong. You see? Because, and that's a lot of times when people get readings and things like that, and, you know, or someone comes and brings a word to you, and, or you have a dream and you say, well, this such and such happened in my dream. And you say, what does it mean? Well, it just means that, you know, your ancestors are watching over you. Or something. It could be something real generic like that. Somebody will give you as an answer. Well, let's say if that is the accurate answer. Let's say that's the right answer, even though it's it's so widely used. You know, oh, your ancestors trying to talk. The ancestors trying to talk to you. You know, people always say things like that. But either way, even if that is the case, essentially what it means is that you're moving in a way where you're not acknowledging that this is being done for you, or you're running the risk of it no longer being done for you. Because keep in mind that in order for that message to come to you, in order for that message to be delivered to you, some energy somewhere has had to take on a lot of energy, a lot of ashe, in order to deliver the message to you. Okay? So if they had to go through all of that just to deliver that message to you, that means it was an important message for you to hear. It's not negligible. That's always something to keep in mind too when you're getting readings. A lot of times people get readings, and I've gone through. That's why I don't do readings for everyone anymore. They'll be giggling. Oh, you should do this. Really? I didn't think that. You know, stupid stuff like that. All right, I'm done. You know, like go somewhere else and get a reading. Because if it's being delivered, number one, it takes me a lot of energy to deliver it. But then it also took the energy from whoever I'm working with to deliver it. That's why you'll hear me do Oriki before the reading. While I'm reading, I'm also pouring out libations. I have candles lit. I may have incense going. You know, I may have poured out some liquor. All these different things where I'm feeding the energies may have been in meditation so that this information can be delivered to you. And when you just kind of brush it aside, it's an insult to me, to Ifa, to my Egun, to Olodumare, to my culture. I mean, we just go right down the line. It's an insult right down the line. So it's the same thing when you have an animal or any other type of energy appear to you like that to deliver a message to you, and you ignore it, you're insulting them in that entire energy line right down the line. So anytime, I don't care if it's a bluebird that stops in front of you and sings, oh, how beautiful. Well, it had to stop there because something's wrong in your psyche. Never forget that. Don't just be so vain when you think, well, bluebirds just stop in front of me because I'm just, you know, so beautiful and you know, they just want to come sing to me. It's not that. You're doing something off. All right. So that's one of the reasons why I took that amount of time to deliver that information. You know, keep in mind, when we speak about true unconditional service, I just want to give you an idea too. What we're dealing with too with that turkey energy is a lot of times helping somebody to get into a position. You know, giving back in that way. Like, let's say if you meet someone who, I don't know, you work a job, they want that job because they want to be able to do something else in life. And you might selfishly say, well, I'm not going to hook you up with where I work because all you want to do is quit the job anyway. And I've been here such and such amount of years and this and that and the third. And the turkey vibration, the turkey medicine says, no, give to that person, nourish that person, feed that person in order so that they can do what they want to do next, so that they can set themselves up with what they want to do next. And remember, the turkey moves in groups. So a lot of times you're even, without realizing it, you're actually preserving the group which helped preserve you. But sometimes you don't see that until you fly up on that branch, maybe just 6 feet away from the group, and then look and say, oh, wait a minute, if I help this person. But again, with the turkey vibration, it's not about what you're going to get back. It's really about the selflessness where you're just giving because you're just supposed to give. That's it. You're not looking for anything back. You don't care about anything back. So when that energy comes to you, you also want to pay attention. Am I giving selflessly? So, of course, when I saw them, I thought about that. And, you know, my first reaction, the egoic reaction was, what the heck else could I give at this point? I don't even have anything for myself. That was my first reaction, you know, and of course on some levels that's a reaction of anger. You know, it's subtle anger, but it's anger nonetheless. So you have to check yourself when you have those type of reactions, which we could classify as angry reactions. You got to say, wait, where's that coming from? So as soon as I saw that and I thought about it, I said, what the heck else would I give at this point? I don't have anything that I do just for me. You know, one thing, really, that's my motorcycles. And really, that's a therapy from having to do other things all day for other people. I ride just to kind of clear my head so I can be prepared to do the next thing for somebody else, right? So I'm looking at it like that, and I'm saying, man, I don't, you know, but that was an angry reaction, and it wasn't a true reaction, because there's always more you could do. There's always something you can do. There's always a little bit more that you can give, and if you can itemize all the things that you've given, then you're doing it wrong. You know, Brother Tareen, I think your phone is not on mute. If it isn't, just do me a favor and mute it out. If that's you, it might not be you. Okay, that's you. Okay, yeah. There's some clicks and pops going on. Like I told y'all yesterday, I'm real sensitive to sound. It throws me off. So yeah, it's that idea. I just wanted to imbue that, you know, and all of you who are listening, it's that idea of giving selflessly, that turkey medicine, that turkey spirit represents, giving selflessly. All right. So you don't want to get away from that too much. And just remember, it's not even a deliberation where you're like, should I? I don't know. Because a turkey can run up to 25 miles per hour. Okay. So this is quick. This is quick moving. A lot of times we lose that when we look at certain animal energies. That's why I say you got to study the animal. Don't just go online and Google, what does a turkey mean in my dream? You know, you might not get someone who actually has ever sat and looked at a turkey and watched and studied and looked at the nature. I sat there and looked and watched. And I've watched turkeys before, but I've never had them on my property. Like, at least not that I know of. Maybe I didn't see them, but, you know, never had them like that where I'm seeing them interact with my space and they're walking between my shrines and stuff like that, you know. So it's a different type of realization in that moment. But like I said, a lot of times when the message comes to you or the medicine comes to you, if your first reaction is resistant, that's why the medicine had to come to you. That's a part of the problem. So like I said, when that came and I thought about, okay, yeah, I do need to step back a little bit because I work a lot and I'm always in the midst and doing this and doing that. Sometimes you got to pull back and maybe let things get a little wobbly. It's okay. You come out, you clean it up. You know, but then the idea of the selfless giving came, and I'm like, selfless? Well, I ain't, you know. Then I said, no, that's the wrong reaction. Yuya, that's not, you think you're wrong. You're moving wrong. Sit down and think about that a little bit more. Because maybe someone's going to even come to you tomorrow who needs something, or the day after. And that's your opportunity, but you're being warned about this because you needed to hear it. You know, and a lot of times, again, we mistake one thing for another. We mistake a lot of times our fear or our anger or our selfishness for logical confirmation. Okay, well, it couldn't be saying that because of this, that. No, if it's saying it, it needs to be said. You need to hear it. You know, it's just like when you're interacting with, like right now, if I went out there and messed with those turkeys, you know what they're going to do? They're going to chase me back inside the house. They're going to attack me. Now, why are they attacking me? Now, I'm going to say is because turkeys are vicious. That's what I'm going to say. But then you have to pull back for a second before you have that type of reaction. Let's really look at this for a second. I'm 6'1", 280 pounds. I'm sure that the turkey is, 2.5 feet tall, right? And whatever it weighs, but clearly it sees that I'm much bigger than it. And not only that, I'm sure in its genetic memory, it has a fear of what it perceives to be humans. So I may come at the turkey with something, hey, I want to feed you, Mr. Turkey. Or I may run over there all super excited. And I understand that it may reel back and attack me or puff out its feathers in defense, not because it's a vicious animal, but because it's afraid. That's all. It's just afraid. So there's so many things a lot of times, even with us, when our animal, because you know that fear, that comes from the lower base animal egoic nature. So there's so many times, a lot of times when we get information and we say, oh, no, I ain't doing that, because we're afraid and we call it something else. So like even when I saw the turkey early this morning, and I thought, oh, maybe I need to give more. I said, oh, well, what else do I have? And I literally looked, I thought about things in my home to give away. That's where my mind immediately went. Well, maybe, I got a lot of books that I haven't cracked open in a while. I could give those away. I have extra, I'm in the yard. I'm like, these cars, I ain't gonna drive all these cars. I give one of these cars away. Because somebody asked me yesterday, literally, I was walking down the street and said, I'm looking for a car. I know you always buying different cars and stuff. Do you know where I can get a good price? And then they were like, can I buy a car from you? And I was like, nah, get out of here. I ain't buying. Just because I didn't want to sell them a car because the person annoys me. So, then I'm looking at the car. I'm like, maybe I do need to sell one of these cars or just give it away. Maybe I should just give it to that person. I don't need it. I'm not really driving it. And I'm going through my list, but that wasn't really what it was about. It was my fear of giving everything away. It was my fear of overextending myself even more than I am already overextended. And I am overextended. But it was the fear of even that's why my reaction was, no, what else am I going to give away? Come on. That was my immediate thought in my mind. And I had to sit down. Literally, I sat and thought about, okay, wait, hold on, slow up. Because that's not you. You don't think like that. Where's that coming from? Oh, that's cool. That's coming from the lower part. Let's dissect it and figure out what it is. So a lot of times when we get our messages and we get information, our first reaction is fearful. It's fear that we're going to step outside of our comfort zones. Now, I'm talking about what we're talking about today, by the way, our flexibility, moving into our transitions. A lot of times we're so afraid that we're going to lose more than what we're going to gain, that we run to our comfort zones. We run to what we're familiar with, even if what we're familiar with is completely dysfunctional. It doesn't matter. At least I know that dysfunction, and you're asking me to move into a space where I may not be able to manage it or I may not be able to handle it because I've created this functioning organism called fear inside of my psyche. I've replaced the real dangers with just fear. You see, so fear now creates its own story because fear helps to keep the ego alive. So they're partners. They're like freaking frack. I don't say Tom and Jerry, but, they work hand in hand. Heckle and Jekyll, So it's often that idea that keeps us from really, truly being flexible, from really releasing ourselves. And that's what we were speaking about yesterday with the idea of the crossification. When you have that master number of 222, that idea of crossification brings us into a place where you kill ego. You release the psychological burden. All right, I'm gonna take a call and let's see. There might be a problem with the audio again. 662, you're on community. Peace. Uh-oh. You can hear me now. Was it a big gap where I was missing? Oh, good gravy. Yeah, I don't know. That's just Blog Talk. Thanks for letting me know, though. I'll try to monitor it, keep my eye on it. Thanks, sis. I appreciate that. Yeah, no problem. Yeah. Yes, brother. Peace. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. You know what it might be other people's connection to Blog Talk. You know what I mean? Because it's dropping people. I saw a couple people get dropped since I've been on. I'm sitting here looking at it. I saw a couple people get dropped. So yeah, we're gonna have to move quick. We're gonna move quick on this upgrade because this isn't sexy. Yeah, we'll get on it, bro. Yeah, that's that turkey moving quickly. But yeah, give thanks. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. There was another aspect I wanted to share. This is turning into a show about the turkey. I might have to retitle it. Being true to yourself. Being true to yourself. And I'm gonna tell you something interesting. I'm sharing some of my personal stuff here. But that came up yesterday. Right before I went to do the show, there was a way I wanted to talk. There was certain music I wanted to play. There was a way that I wanted to present what I presented, and I didn't do it. And I said, people are not really ready to hear me like that. And I think about all of the people who are new to the information and still need me to be, I don't know, whatever. All y'all think I'm mean for some reason, but still need me to be that. I wanted to say soft voice, but no one thinks I'm. But whatever I am right now, the level of gentleness and tenderness that I have right now, however untender you may perceive it, there's so many people who need it to be right there in my perception. And a lot of times when I think about just relaxing and saying, let me just speak the way I speak, I don't. As a result, and it was very interesting because the sister who called in last night said, I listened to so-and-so, but I like listening to you because of your professional presentation. So it was kind of like it rung in my ear. I was like, yeah. Either that's confirmation of moving in the right direction, or that's confirmation that you're in prison. It's one of them. You'll work it out. So now when the turkeys came, I thought about something, especially with the male turkeys. I identify with those. And I like turkeys because they're vicious. I have to admit that I kind of like vicious animals. I find them a bit more interesting because I always wonder why they're vicious. There's always a reason. Like, you got a male turkey, you got 10, 11 female mates, you got to be vicious. Just like a lion who has a pride. A male lion, everything's about Mortal Kombat. Because I have all these women. A polygynous man is the same way. You can't be a polygynous man and not be able to run a couple of miles, or I don't care even if you big. I'm big, I can still run. I can still fight, I can still do push-ups, pull-ups, dips. You got to be able to do all that stuff when you got all those women and all those children who are looking towards you. So sometimes that's where the viciousness comes out, right? So there's an aspect I wanted to share that I think may also help you all. The male turkeys make this very interesting noise. We know the gobble, 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 right? That's, and they even make a clucking noise, because that's how I heard them this morning. I heard cluck, 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 cluck. And now sometimes when I do ebos, not even sometimes, especially goats, I'm gonna warn you guys, whenever you have priests say, we're gonna come do a goat, we're gonna do it over your house, I'm gonna teach you something about the goats. It could be a year after the ebo is done. Sometimes you'll still hear the goat. And a lot of times you'll still smell the goat. All right? So I'm going to give you a little warning. That's just times people don't want to do them on there. They be like, we'll come do it at your place. Because they know about it. Some priests know about that. Certain animals, they tend to linger. So I'm hearing the cluck, cluck, cluck. I'm like, okay, maybe it's just one of the chickens, just, spirit just coming through saying what's up. Because I'm real good. To any animal that I have to do, this is the spot to go. This is because I'm real good. I usually try to keep them at least for 7 days before the actual ceremony or ritual, and they're fed well. I give them plenty of space to run around, and I keep my cages up because especially with chickens at night, the raccoons will go at them. I've had that happen, sadly, to me once, and I didn't want that to happen again. The only thing that was left on the ground was a rib cage, literally, and some feathers. So I'm real good to them in that sense. Keep them protected, well fed, keep them warm, lots of water. I give them alkaline water. So I said, okay, maybe it's just one of them came back to see what's happening. So then I looked, of course, and I saw the turkey. So that's one sound that they make. But they also make this very low thud. It sounds like a 808 bass drum. And you would almost miss it because you would think it's not coming from them. It sounds like something going, but it sounds like a bass drum with a sharp attack, like a kick, like a doom, doom. And it's a very interesting sound that turkeys make. It's like it's a boom, but it's a very low sub frequency. And a lot of times after they make that, it's called the chump. Like if you hear people talk about animals, they call it a chump because it's like a chump sound, like jump, but it's real low, and it's not low in volume, but low actually in frequency, and it comes like from their chest. And what happens is, a lot of times after they make the sound, they'll kind of like shake their tails, like it'd be like jump, and you can hear like a little rattle afterwards. And to me, it always reminded me of hitting a bass tone on a djembe that has rattles, because some djembe, sometimes you put the rattles on them, gives you a different kind of sound. And if you hit that low bass note, I'm looking around my djembe's in another room. You hit that low bass note, that doom, it has almost a sound like that. So how I've always seen that, man, I'm giving you my interpretation, because even if you go online and read about it, you're just reading someone's interpretation. So you can always understand your own interpretations of things based on studying the actual animal itself. That's why I always encourage that. Take it right to the root. Grasp the root of the animal and learn it for yourself. But that comes from their core, that sound, right? So it's got a real solar chakra type vibration to it. Well, that deals with singing out and resounding your own personal true note. What is your real note? What is your true note? Are you being true to self? Are you being honest? And it's not the gobble, gobble, gobble that cuts through that everybody can hear. That sounds like everybody's gobble sounds the same. But there's only certain turkeys that can make that actual low sonic sound. Scientists still haven't figured out like exactly how they do it. How it comes through, but they know, of course, that it exists. And a lot of times the men will do that, or the males, will do that, the male turkeys, when they are kind of like calling to the women, or they're just kind of letting you know, like, this is all me right here. Like, so like if another male turkey comes around and there's like 11 or 12 females there, they'll make that sound of doom. And it's like, yeah, player, like this is basically my stable, and what's interesting, a lot of times when they make that noise, right, that boom, the female turkeys will kind of make like a almost like a cat purr. I can't roll my tongue. If I could, I would do it. That's a genetic disposition. Some people genetically, they didn't inherit that DNA quality where they can roll the tongue. I don't have it. So but it's almost sounds like, like a purr, like a tongue being rolled. The females make that. So that resounding true and authentic note, or true and authentic self, that vibration you put out into the world, it has a response of pleasure that comes back from the world. That's what the females, how they answer. So I thought about that. Like I said, when I was sitting down and thinking about what else can I give, and I kind of had that little moment, which I'm going to call was like a little moment of agitation, but it wasn't agitation. It was fear. That's what it really was. It was fear. Like, oh man, I got to give more. I've given up. I've sacrificed so much already. Like, I've sacrificed having a normal life and normal relationships and all of those different things to pursue this mission and to help people. And now there's more. But sometimes what you're not giving is yourself, your real self, your true self. Because you might be afraid to give your true self. You're afraid to claim and say, this is my space. This is what I do. This is who I am. And sometimes you're afraid that you may not get that purr back. You may not get that pleasurable call like, I like listening to you. Or yeah, thank you so much. You may not get that back. You may get something else. So believe it or not, because I know a lot of you feel that you always say like, yeah, Chief's gonna give it to me. I talk to Chief, he gonna let me have. And I always say, I've never let anybody have it. What you perceive as me going, I've never gone off on anybody. None of you have ever even heard me agitated. Like, it's so far from what I really and truly am. You'd be shocked. Whatever is said to you during these moments needs to be said to you, period. I don't even say what I want to say half the time. I say what needs to be said. Okay, even when I'm joking, It's strategic and calculated joking. Okay, so that's something to think about. Not just for all of you, but for me as well. Like I said, it's almost turning into a turkey show, but it's dealing with the flexibility. So we're still in the same place. We're still in the same idea of, moving outside of where we find our greatest comfort. Because, again, a lot of times we make these really small excuses in order to stay in a place that is not feeding us. And we're putting these unreal expiration dates on when things should really happen for us in life. So I'm 28 now, I'm 29, I'm 30, I'm 15, I'm 60, it's over. So I might as well fall back into the rut of this or fall back into the rut of that. And a lot of times we do that without really making a full recognition that, so many times we look back on our life and we say, if I could be 19 again, if I could be 13 again, if I could be 16 again, knowing the things that I know now, what would I would have done this different or done that different. Well, for those of you who are listening who are 52, you're going to say that as 70. Man, if I could be 52 again. Those of you who are 25, and say, man, when I was 18, I did this, or 17 or 16, I went and did that. I wish I would have did different. You're going to say the same thing at 35. So you start to understand that there's always a moment to change. There's always a moment to take a change of direction, and from forward, write what you can rewrite your history. Look at Western culture. If that's not some rewriting history, you can rewrite your own personal history, because it's the culmination of the previous decisions and choices that you made in your life that have created the reality of what you currently live today, right? So if you begin to invest in a different paradigm in terms of how you're going to live in the world and how you're going to move throughout the world, if you invest in a different paradigm, because time is a cyclical mechanism, your past actually changes. Your past changes when you create a new identity for yourself. That's why sometimes somebody could do something to you and, they now may be a holy roller or something like that. And you say, when I was a child, you were so mean, you did this. And they'll look at you like almost like they have dementia. Like, what? I did what? Like they just can't believe that. You sure that was me? Wow. They can't imagine that was something that they would have done, because they have reconstructed their reality in that not only have they rewritten their present, they've rewritten their past. And because they've rewritten their past, the way they perceive the future has now changed. So therefore, their future will change. You can time travel and go back and change your life. You see? But sometimes we don't want to move out of our comfort zones of dysfunction because we lose our flexibility. And a lot of times we associate flexibility with weakness. It's not the same thing. There is strength in flexibility. And even when you're training or you're, let's say if you're doing yoga, right? You're not just bending and twisting on the floor, but you're learning how to bend and twist on the floor while putting your mind into a certain space and at the same time breathing a certain way. You're still making sure that you're getting oxygen to your muscles and you have that whole anabolic and catabolic process still occurring while you're moving past your inflexibility and you're moving past your rigidness. You see? And in doing that, you now create a new form for your body, but you become stronger. You become internally stronger and you become externally stronger by working out your own flex joints, by moving beyond where you think you could have moved to, by breaking open through your ceiling where you think you could have been. You see, there's a finely processed excellence that comes in the small steps of flexibility that we push ourselves behind, that we push ourselves past. When we allow ourselves to contort ourselves into new positions, while at the same time breathing, sending and receiving, but still in a new contorted position. There is a great value to that. You see, we make so many excuses a lot of times as to why we cannot move into a certain space because we've created dreams that are usually fabrications or emulations of someone else's thoughts, someone else's desires. And what you'll find is that most of the time, when you begin to move past that, whatever it is that you're doing is never as frightening as it looked. The experience is never as frightening as it looked. Now, why is that? Because fright and fear has no look. It's an internal fabrication. You can't like go to a museum exhibit and point and say, oh, that's fear. You could look at somebody's face and say they look afraid, they look fearful. Oh, Godzilla is coming. Look, the townspeople are afraid. King Kong is climbing the building. It looks fearful, but there is no substance of fear that you could actually point to, that you can actually touch, other than accessing it through the astral planes and creating an astral body of fear. That's the only way that you're going to access and come in contact with it. So when you start to actually do, you'll find that whatever it is you're doing up close and in action and in activity is never as frightening as it appeared to be. You know, like they say, fear is false evidence appearing real. You know, well, that's a great acronym. Whoever developed that, I mean, that was a really accurate and good way to look at the concept of fear. But we make it real by spiritizing it. We make it a very real thing. So there's a line. There's a line of congruency that exists within inside of our beings that is directly connected to our ability to be flexible, because flexibility is what brings forth enlightenment. If you can't be flexible and you're rigid in your thoughts and you're rigid in your ideas, then you're unable to bring forth the notes and the sounds that bring enlightenment. Consider this. Enlightenment comes through ecstasy. Transformation comes through corruption. Well, what's a form that we achieve ecstasy through? Well, through our sexual experiences. And a lot of times our mastery of the Tantric experiences increases our ecstasy, right? Well, we all know there's a simple thing that you have to be able to do to have sex. Very simple, right? It's the main thing. If this thing is not present, it's not happening. Not only do you need a penis and a vagina to actually have intercourse. Okay, you can have a lot of other things that feel great, but to have intercourse, that's a different animal. That's a different beast. In order to have intercourse, you have to have flexibility. Period. Flexibility. Now, I know you may be thinking I'm saying, oh, put your leg up here. I'm not talking about that. In order for the penis to expand, to be prepared for sexual intercourse, the skin of the penis has to be flexible. In order for a vagina to receive the penis, the vagina has to be flexible. It can't be rigid. Now, it's through that flexibility that the pleasure is experienced. Through that pleasure, the physical body or the ego is stripped. One becomes pure and truly naked in that moment and takes on the attributes of dynamism and flexibility. And in that moment, they now reach their aesthetic truths, their clean truths, which we call enlightenment. Enlightenment is just aesthetic truth, or not aesthetic so much. Yeah, aesthetic, but I would say more so sterilized truth. Truth that has no shrouding of the illusion of flesh or the illusion of ego or the illusion of dogmatic materialism. Okay, but that comes through the flexibility. Even when you're doing spiritual work, there has to be a flexibility of your vocal ability. That's why I was sharing one of the shows I did. I shared a story, and I shared with you that, you know, in most instances, when we're sharing stories and ideas back home, they're usually sung. They're not actually, you know, like we may say, once upon a time there was a princess who lived in a castle, and that's not really how you would tell a story back home, because the fluidity and the flexibility, my phone keeps going off, but the fluidity and the flexibility of the voice and the vocal cords is supposed to match the fluidity and the flexibility of the mind. See, that's the truth what's supposed to happen when you speak. So if one has a rigid mind, rigid thoughts, an inflexible personality and character, then what happens is that the voice and the mind don't align with each other, and they don't hit the target. You see? So it's like throwing water against a wall, I don't even say a brick wall. It's like throwing water against a glass wall or a plastic wall, or any other non-porous surface. It's not going to get through to the other side. Okay? As opposed to, you may take a bamboo leaf that has, that's soft and supple, and throw a pail of water in front of it. The leaf is going to bend and allow the water to go through. Okay, so perceive the bamboo leaf as your mind. There has to be that flexibility. And perceive the water as your consciousness and moral and mental intent. So you can't reach higher than the flexibility of your mind. No matter what you're saying, no matter how lofty your words are. That's why you can use great sentences, and you can be an awesome orator, and you can even steal ideas from someone who has a greater control and grasp over those ideas. But if your mind is inflexible, it doesn't actually reach the target. It doesn't actually reach the minds or the porous or the absorptive aspect of the person you may be speaking to, because it has to go through a channel. So all channels have to be soft. All channels have to be flexible. And if one thing in that line is inflexible, you have a problem. If one thing is not, you're not going to be able to create a straight, congruent path to where it is that you need to be. Now, a part of what we do in our spiritual work is we loosen up the grips of the rigid parts of ourselves. And we loosen those things up by removing restriction. Okay. Now, in order to remove restriction, a lot of times we do have to move beyond what we are dogmatically comfortable with, what we are dogmatically just okay with, what is just fine with us. We have to look again at the dogma of it and determine, well, who imbued me with this dogma? Who broke down my vowel sounds? And what I mean by break down my vowel sounds, the vowels are the flexible aspects of your language. The vowels are your flexibility. The consonants are where you stop, where they become inflexible. That's why your consonants represent your masculine energy and your vowels represent your feminine energy. One of the reasons why most names, most female names end in a vowel. If you notice, most of them. And I can almost even say most of the correct ones end in vowels. And a name in general should have, if it's properly balanced, has a proper balance between consonant and vowel. Even if it doesn't end in a vowel, which is, it's not like a masculine name could end like Dawu, for instance, which is the older form of the name David, Dawu. It ends in vowels, but it starts with a consonant. And you really want to look, so, it may be, some people spell it D-A-W-U. So you have a proper balance between consonant and vowel. It's balanced. You see, so the rigidity has its place, but the flexibility has its place as well when you're practicing your evolution on the physical plane, and you want that practice of evolution on the physical plane to mirror and to also feed your practice of evolution on your spiritual plane. And that flexibility, you have to push yourself through every single day. Think about anyone here who's ever taken yoga before, any type of sport or any type of art. What happens when you stop for a long time? You become stiff. You lose your flexibility. So you start to understand that, wow, this is a daily practice. Every day I have to do something that pushes me beyond my comfort zone. And if I'm not doing that, then I'm not expanding my mind. I'm not expanding my power. I'm not expanding my voice. I'm not expanding my reach. And I'm definitely not expanding my efficacy. You see, everything comes to a standstill if I'm not dying every day through that act of pushing by, pushing through, pushing past. Because a lot of times we're holding on to this idea that if I push past my comfort zone, I'm going to lose. I'm going to lose. That's the only thing we can think of. I'm going to lose this. I'm going to lose that. I'm going to lose this. And we never give thought to this simple truth. You always get more than you lose. Always. Most of the time, the things that need to be stripped from you are smaller than the things that you get. And if going through transitions and changes was always about losing something valuable or just losing, period, then all we would have to do is be initiated or get married or have a baby in order to move past childhood trauma. It would be just that simple, because we would lose all of that stuff with every transition. It's obvious that you still maintain things, but you take on new things. You see? So again, it's fear. It's an unrealistic phobia that has us in that position where, again, we feel like, man, if I do that, I'm going to lose too much. I'm going to lose that. I'm loss of life, or, I'm going to lose my reputation. I'm going to lose my position, this, that. And again, going back to that turkey ideation, it's the sonic boom. What is your note that you're sending out into the world? Are you sending a boom or a tap? It's like the movie Harlem Nights, that scene with Arsenio Hall where everybody's shooting these huge guns, boom, boom. And his partner next to him has got that little tiny, look like, I don't even say a 22, like a 10, and he's just pap, pap, pap. And he was like, yo, man, stop shooting that gun. He was like, everybody's out, he got these big guns, you got that little gun. So what is the note that you're sending out into the world? And is it resounding? Is it large? Is it shaking the ground to the point so that when it shakes the ground, it knocks the dust off of things? And now you bring your healing medicine into the space because you're sending your note outwards. Or is it that small little pap that no one can hear? Is it that small little voice of fear or ego or arrogance or anger that doesn't really align itself with the fluidity that exists within other parts of your body? Because you have a natural inclination to fluidity. You're 75% water. So, and that number increases as you age. So you have a natural inclination towards being fluid, towards flexibility. So why is it that you would lock yourself down to something other than that? And I wanted to share as well, a lot of times when we look at the idea of like Tantra, because I know I think I'm, yes. Can you hear me? Uh-oh. It's all right. Okay. So I don't know what that is. I guess Brother Tareen has talking to someone. But yeah, no problem, brother. It's okay. That break actually gives me a moment to give the number. 515-605-9862. Calling number. And I'm not stressing calling in, so don't worry about it too much. I know also a lot of people listen from their jobs. So I know a lot of times you sneaking in your midday medicine when you're listening to these segments. So you can't always just sit in your office or your cubicle and start sharing all of your private business. So it's never a big deal, but I like to just give the number just for anyone who wants to share their testimony. And like I said, in these segments, when I'm on, I'm not really answering a myriad of questions. So if you want to share experience, anything like that, or again, like I said, grievances are something different. If you're having a huge problem, and the huge problem is not just I've been having scary thoughts, like that's not a huge problem. Okay, unless those scary, well, I don't want to say it on the air, but unless those scary thoughts would harm someone else in a real way. If it's not that, then you can get your fix somewhere else. Sometimes we have to be able to respect. So that's a part of the sonic boom. I'm kind of teaching myself as I'm talking today. But respecting the protocol in your position is actually a gift that you give to people. You know, teaching them and showing them how to act in the moment and what they should be doing and what they should not be doing, and when they're doing something off or disrespecting your position or disrespecting your eldership or whatever, you do them a disservice, because again, as I've said often, people desire to reach that highest peak of direction and to eventually be self-directed. And you know, that is one of the purposes of Tantra. You know, a lot of people think that when you're practicing Tantra, it's about twisting yourself into a pretzel and having the biggest orgasm you've ever had in your life. That's the surface level, and that's what's called destructive Tantra. So you have creative Tantra and you have destructive Tantra. Now, and many one of the turkeys is coming closer. So that means, because they never by themselves. I only see one now. But that in a lot of the spiritual communities, what they call that is white Tantra and black Tantra. And you could imagine, just guess, the black Tantra is supposed to be the bad Tantra, and the white Tantra is the good Tantra. I don't know where they got that from. It's just so interesting. But in any event, you know, I call it constructive and deconstructive, or destructive Tantra. But the deconstructive Tantra is a Tantra where you're moving and you're aiming towards orgasm, and the constructive is where you're using your sexual energy as a purifier. So you're keeping it inside, because internally the buildup of it, again, it purifies your internal. So a lot of times we don't realize, even again with our flexibility, you know, our aligning our full systems together, it's not just about ending, you know, rushing to the ending. It's not so much about that, but through the stretching and moving ourselves to each space, we tend to purify ourselves. We tend to come into a healthier space of purification. And you know, I wanted to share something, or I'm going to share something, a side note on Tantra. I'm going to share something. I know Tantra is like one of the new hustles. You know, it's one of the new pickup artist hustles. You know, I hear a lot of people talk about it. I've had different people that I've worked, male and female. So I know a lot of times when we talk about pickup artists, sexual hustles, the mentality always goes, yeah, these men. But I actually know, especially in the spiritual community, you have a lot of female predators, female sexual predators. You know, they find their way particularly in the spiritual community. And you sometimes even see that through tradition, people who call themselves high priestesses, and then they use their position in order to, you know, do sexual rituals. I mean, Liz Taylor was famous for that. You know, Elizabeth Taylor, she would find all these young lovers, and that's how she was set to maintain her beauty. Jaja Gabor, she used to do that as well. She was the first person I ever heard talk about using male sperm as lotion. You know, I was the first person I ever heard say that back in the 80s. She used male sperm as lotion. You know, and I know Lena Horne used to take lemons and cut them in half and rub those on her elbows, you know, and on her joints and her knees to keep them smooth. But Jaja Gabor skipped the lemon and she just used jism, and that was her lotion. So, you know, that's a form, and I'm not saying it's evil or anything like that. You know, it just is what it is. But you know, that idea sometimes turns into something very corrupt when it becomes predatorial, and you're working against people's vulnerabilities. I've seen that so often in spiritual houses, between males and females. One of the reasons why you hear me consistently advocating for some type of mating, and I want to make something clear on that as well. Another little side. I'm not advocating that everyone needs to go out and get a family immediately. I mean, it would be great if you could, but sometimes you're just not in the position right now to have a family. Okay. Now let me share something about that. 9 times out of 10, and almost 9.5 times out of 10, the person not in a position to have a family right now is a man. So I'm hardly talking to you females. I want you to be clear on that. Okay? Our clocks are different. I will reiterate that. And I know people have a problem hearing that, but who cares? You know, there's always going to be a group of people. Oh, there's the other turkey. Okay. That's the male, too. That male is gorgeous. But there's always going to be a group of people who don't agree with what you're talking about. That's just how it is. There's always going to be a group of people. And now that we live in a social media environment, those people who don't agree with what you're talking about can post comments and talk about you and link to your stuff. And that's just what it is. You know, you don't have to go around the internet of the world convincing everyone of what it is that you're talking about or what it is that you're doing, especially when you live in a backward society. You know, because a lot of times the people who disagree with you don't have an intelligent alternative for you. It's just, no, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do it, man. Don't do that. You know, I used to hear that a lot when I was younger with certain things I wanted to do. Oh, man, don't do that. I remember years ago, one of my grandfather's friends, they were partners. They owned a shoe shop together, like shoe shine shop. It was really a gambling spot, but, you know, statute of limitations is way past, so I'd talk about it. And they owned this spot, and I mean, it was kind of funny because, you know, I used to always go there as a child, and like the cops used to come in there and they would go into that back room because I found out later they also sold liquor in there. And they come back out drunk, hat all twisted and stuff. And I never really knew what they were doing back there. And as I got older, I found out, you know, they'd be back there drinking, getting high, you know, sniffing cocaine, gambling, and then go back out on the beat, you know, Nostrand Avenue in Brooklyn. But I remember years ago the elder who owned it, Jinx was his name. Baba Jinx, I used to call him Baba Jinx. I'm gonna sound like Jar Jar Binks, but Baba Jinx. He the person who owned the building really liked him. He was a Jewish guy, and he wanted to sell him the building. And I remember this day. I remember like it was yesterday. The whole crew, his whole old school crew, which I have to say, the exception of my grandfather, was like, man, don't buy that. Don't buy this building. You're going to have to deal with the taxes, the insurance. It's just going to be a big headache. Right? So he ended up not buying the building. And my grandfather talked about this for years. Yeah, man, they let Jinx, you know, talk Jinx out of buying that building, you know. Now that the building is worth millions and millions of dollars, you know, that particular area is, it's getting ready to undergo its gentrification, you know, and there's other storefronts. You know, of course, the shoe shine shop is not there anymore because people wear disposable shoes now more. But, you know, in any event, a lot of times it is we're influenced into a certain way of life and into a certain way of thinking, not only by the company, but because we're not resounding our true note, you know, and we end up getting confused very quickly in different things, you know. So again, the aspects that I'm speaking about when it comes to the turkey, when it comes to the flexibility, when it comes to the fullness of your note are critical. And the Tantra, Tantra deals with meditation and consciousness. That's what Tantra is about. Ultimately, it's not just about rushing to an endpoint. It's about purifying your own self so your thoughts can be made clear. And you know, there's an aspect of Tantra I'm going to show you that a lot of people don't even talk about. That is key. They tell you about the sexual position, twist here, twist there, squeeze there, bite there, pinch there, you know. But they don't tell you that after the actual act, if there even is a sexual act, there's another set of rituals after the orgasm. That part they never bring up. Which, once you hear that, you already know you're listening to some garbage. At least you should know. Now, at least now you know that you're listening to some garbage. As soon as no one tells you about what do we do afterwards, because the energy is still very high. Then there's certain things you're supposed to be there, you know, be and do in that moment. You know, when you're coming into that place of ecstatic enlightenment, that stripping does. Like I said, that aesthetic truth that it brings to you. It's a very amazing way, and when you're doing this work and when you're becoming flexible, you're learning to move around your blockages and you're learning to clear your blockages. That's what's key. You're learning to move around them and you're learning to clear. So your tantric work or your repositioning work, your fluidity work is similar to how we would look at Ogun, look at Eshu, that okay, these are energies that move obstacles. I think I said Eshu, not Oshun, but Eshu and Ogun, we always look at them as the way clearers. They're moving blockages. They're moving things in the path. Well, so does the practice of stretching yourself beyond your comfort zone to a new level of flexibility. Because what it does and what it should do is it raises your vibration. Okay, once your vibration raises, then you're able to purify yourself more properly and go through a completion process. That again takes you back to the idea of the 222 or the 22 representing the completion of a cycle. And it's not really even just a completion of a cycle, it's a completion of an entire life. That's what the 22 represents. So when you go through that completion of your life or of your actual purpose or your aim, very similar to how we call the ejaculation and not the ejaculation a small death. It's like a completion of a life. Well, you're born into something else, so what do I do next? Well, in order to do that thing next, you have to have the courage of flexibility. And again, that's what so many people are afraid of. Now, you're born to be flexible. You're born flexible. I mean, don't test it out on a baby, but they're very flexible. That's why a lot of times when they fall, as a new parent, you're scared. Like when you see your baby fall the first time, especially if it's because sometimes they take some crazy fall. They'll fall down steps or something crazy like that. Oh my goodness, my baby, And I've learned, I always tell people they're much tougher than they look. Trust me. They're like those rubber balls, those kick balls. Like they're okay. Now me and you, if we took that fall, everything would be broken. But it's their flexibility that serves that. It keeps them protected. And I've seen some bad, I worked in education, so I've seen some bad falls and stuff, But it is that idea, again, that we inject in there, that brings that protection. Now, one of the things I wanted to share as well, like I was saying, that the 22, it represents that completion of the process, going through something completely, and using your ability of dualism, your ability of synchronous action and engagement back and forth in order to actually complete your process. Again, it takes you to that idea, which I was saying earlier, that I'm not always stressing you, go out, get a family. For a man, that's not always the answer. But a man should always have a woman. You should always at least have someone that you can have a sexual release with. At least practice some of these tantric practices with. Even if you have 4 or 5 girlfriends, but at least you should have at least one always that you can practice with. A lot of times you'll get the advice, well, you should spend some time alone. Most time you get that advice from women. Again, we're different. And not only are we different in terms of our biology, our clocks are different, but we're different in terms of our growth paths. And like I was sharing in another show, a lot of times a man, especially in this day and time where you have such a lack of development emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and financially, most men are not even ready for a family until they're in their early 40s. Most men. How many men wait that long? Now, am I telling you to be celibate from 15 to 43, 44? No. Always have a woman. Always have a woman. Now, for a female, would I give the same guidance? No. And this is where people say, see, that's a double standard. You darn gone right, it's a double standard. We're not the same. And some of the stupidity that I sometimes, I see in comments and things like that, it's just indicative, again, of the sad place that we've fallen to, or some have fallen to as a collective. It's indicative of that. But at the same time, when I look at it, like I said, there's always that idea that some people are going to disagree with you. That idea is always present. And you have to be able to handle that disagreement. You have to know that those people already exist out there, especially when you're living higher culture. For women, when you are of mating age, mate. Have your children, have your family. And your family doesn't necessarily always have to mean that you have a man that you live with every day. That's the truth of it. So we have to be more flexible at this stage of the game, and even how we're designing family, how we're perceiving family, how we're perceiving mating, because clearly what has been done and what is being done doesn't work. You know, and as you grow, what you want changes. I have men that I know who are 40, 50 years old still looking for their age, 40-year-old virgins. That's you stupid. You know, I'd say, well, you're just stupid. Okay? Or say like, you know, yeah, I'm gonna get me a young bride. I'm gonna go and talk to one of my partners and see about, you know, them linking me with their daughters. So you're 35 years old, and you're gonna go to your friend who's 40 or 45 or 35, and you're gonna ask for his 13-year-old daughter, or his 14 or his 15-year-old daughter, for an arranged marriage so that she be saved for you. Now, I'm not gonna say what communities I see this in, because it's a certain community that I see a preponderance of it. But a lot of that is really unrealistic. Okay. Sometimes people are not aware of the times that we're living in and how we need to be flexible to move, but not necessarily be weak and compromising. But to show a level of flexibility where we change the agenda so that it matches where exactly we need to be. Because like I said, it doesn't take 10 years to get a mate. The only reason it takes that long is because your perception is that damaged. And what you're looking for, your qualifications or your requirements, are based on a fairy tale. So of course it's going to take that long. And the only reason why you found one 10 years later is because you wisened up. It's not that difficult. You know, as young boys, when we go to school, we like all the girls. We like every girl in class. See, it's not that hard. You know, so now what causes us no longer to be able to get along? It's our rigidity. It's the fact that we're not being true to ourselves because we're being driven away from ourselves. As many women as I speak to, 35 plus, who don't have mates, which is a retardation of a culture, to be that old, far beyond your healthiest childbearing years, and you're still trying to figure out what you were trying to figure out at 16, how to get a boyfriend. I'm not saying those individuals are retarded. I want you to be clear. I'm saying the culture is retarded. There's something seriously wrong there. We have to look at that. But at that age, people are looking, you know, I want to mate. And as many of them I ask, I say, listen, do you really want a husband? Or do you want a partner and children? Do you really want, at this point, at this stage in the game, is that really what you want, a husband? Think about it for a second. And, you know, think about it. And I say, now let's go through what some of those duties are required. You know, now at this age, you may feel a little different. And how many children do you really want at this age? Maybe when you were 25, you wanted 10. And then I say, do you still want to be raising children, young children at 55 years old? Oh, you know, I didn't think, not really. I really just maybe want 1 or 2. That's usually the magic. Now, maybe 2. But 1 is fine. And I don't really have to see a man every day. Not really. I'm good on that. Right. So now we have some flex room in here. Let's look at this realistically now. Your desires have changed. Your needs have changed. Your mind has changed. You see, so sometimes we're applying solutions that are meant for teenagers as adults. And of course it's not going to work. It never works. Okay? So that alignment, that mirrors our growth. If our mind is growing, our voice has to grow as well. Okay, the flexibility, again, what I spoke about earlier, what comes from the deep, the boom. You know, if your mind changes, then you have to be able to vocalize that. Well, this is now what I see being the best thing. This is now what works. And this is not only what my intuition tells me, but what my logic tells me. And we're so afraid to say that a lot of times. Males as well are afraid to say that they're not aging with their women. You know, you might have a sister you with who's 40, and she's like, yeah, we need to hurry up and have some children before it's too late. And you might be like, I got like another 30, 40 years to have children. What do you mean before it's too late? You know, so sometimes, you know, but the simp in you says, okay, I have to identify with this individual. And sometimes a woman doesn't realize by you identifying with a man, you're losing and missing out on so much of your power. That's the tragedy. So when you hear me say things like, yeah, I'm a sexist, and it's not a rigidity to it, because if I say I'm a sexist and say there's things that women are here for and men are here for, we're still discovering those things. So you can't box the person in necessarily to an assignment like that as far as what those duties are, because we're still trying to learn them, but you'll never learn them as long as you're crisscrossing the lines. You know, as long as everyone's aspiring, all the men are aspiring to be females and all the females are aspiring to be males, you'll never discover the true power of the assignment that you came down with. That's one of the saddest things. And if you look with the challenges that people have in getting together, that's what it really is. Everybody's doing the exact opposite. If the man was his whole biochemistry nature is to lead, if to give direction, give inspiration, give a spark. Well, what is the biggest complaint that a lot of females have about males today? No direction. Nothing, no plan in life, nothing that they know that they want to do with themselves. You know, just kind of moving through things blissfully. A lot of times females say, I have to come up with all the ideas in a relationship. So the very thing that you were put here to do is the very thing that you won't do. Then let's take it on the other side. What are females here to do? Or a part when we talk about engagement, harmonious, getting together, being flexible with each other, to follow, to listen, to follow, to take direction. That's what has to happen in a relationship. I don't care who comments, who says, no, so you mean to say I can't have a mind of my own? Yeah, you can have a mind. Use it to process these directions I just gave you. Okay, that's what I want your mind for. Okay, so that's the primary thing you're here to do, is to listen and follow through. Follow through is important because remember, women are the producers of the world. They're the applicators. They're the Holy Spirit of the Bible, or the Set. They're the active, or Duduwa, the actual active force that's actually getting it done. You see? So what is the biggest complaint that men have with women nowadays? They don't listen. They talk too much. They talk all the time. So where's the silence of the great womb? The silence, the receptivity, gone. Nobody does that. So they don't listen. They don't follow directions. This, that, and the third. So the very things that we were put here to do that bring out the greatest power in us, we're too inflexible to do it because we've been programmed by a retarded culture to keep us divided and to keep us stunted in our relationships. If you're stunted in your relationships, then you'll never be able to go through your full process of the 22, because the full process of the 22 requires an engagement and interaction between the dualistic complementary energies of masculine and feminine. Now, if neither one is doing what they're supposed to do or striving to do what the other do, you know, you have males who just want to hide behind their females. Well, whatever she want to do, that's cool. Whatever she wanted, that's sickening to me. I can't even be around males like that. All right. You know, with no direction, just wimps, total wimps. And then you got females like, well, we going to do it this way because, I'll go off. You know me. Who wants to be around that? So now you got two individuals who are not functioning in their roles, can't function in their roles, but no, they can't also function in the roles that they're aspiring to, because chemically and spiritually it's not in them to even be able to do that. So now you're dealing with two frustrated individuals trying to be something that they can't, but they can't be it, so they're moving through the world angry and frustrated. And then we're wondering why we can't get along, or why we can't build, or why the children are so retarded. This is the reason. Now, again, it may sound contradictory when we're speaking about flexibility, because in this society, flexibility, it transcribes itself to the thought of non-morality. There's no principles. You do whatever you want. Like, Trump just rescinded all of Obama's transgender stuff. Well, the transgender piece in terms of the civil rights support, where now they get their own bathrooms and stuff like that. So everybody's in an uproar. Oh, the transgender now. Like, did you really want your little girl being in the bathroom with a boy, a confused boy? Now, of course, we're not supposed to be able to say that, but my group can say that. Why can't each group have their own perspective? You know, I don't have a problem. Let's say if one religion says, well, we're not for the gays. Well, isn't your God supposed to come before your country? So if we say, well, in this country we have tolerance. Okay, yeah, but my God comes first. If you even read the Constitution, or the matter of fact, the Bill of Rights, it speaks about your allegiance to God before it speaks about to the country. Okay, that's another question. But you can use that in law paperwork, actually. That's why people can always put forth religious indemnity. No, this is my religion. So if my religion holds this, or my spiritual connection holds this, then why can't I do that? And let me give you all a little tidbit too, a little fun fact. A law was passed recently where now churches can have their own police enforcement units. You think about that. And I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm just gonna say that for those of you with ears to hear who are actually out here doing the work, you know what that means now, and you know what you need to do. For the rest of you, don't worry about it. We'll go back to the turkey and stuff. So, again, it's that rigidity of stupidity, where we've become comfortable in the cultural retardation that's been handed to us. That becomes our comfort zone. And now when we look to move beyond anything else, we look at what we're going to lose. The male doesn't want to take the throne as a man because he's going to lose his comfort of not having to make the decisions. The female doesn't want to fall back and be the proper female because she's going to lose her power of being the authority of the household. You see, but meanwhile, neither one. It's like a game of tug of war where no one's getting anywhere. It's gonna continue to be a stalemate because you've put you reverse the battery. When you think about like a battery, in a something, if you put the positive to the negative positive, it's not gonna work properly. So you got to turn the battery, flip it the other way. Okay, this is where things were meant to be. Now we got some juice. Now we can move. Okay, so you gain a greater sense of flexibility when your core resounding note is true to your spiritual and chemical makeup. And we've lost that ability, and we've lost that gift and that power because of our rigidity and the lack of congruency from gut to throat to head out to the crown. So we're sending out into the world nothing because we're not able to get past that wall of rigidity. Everything has to be fluid, going straight through. All right. That has been our community show. Thank you all for tuning in. This is Chief Yuya. Again, if you're not a member of our new spiritual training and you want to learn these things that I'm talking about, that's how you're going to learn them. Go to saduluhouse.com, saduluhouse.com. Go through your journey yourself. You're not going to learn everything on a free internet show. You got to go through the process. Go through the process. Go through the process. All right? So, I will speak to you all I think tomorrow. I'm covering tomorrow. So, tomorrow will be for the Dawning Devotional. Until such time.